Welcome to another edition of Pet Matters. My name is Dorothy Claeys, and I'm the Executive Director at Francisville Home for Smaller Animals, located right here in Radnor, Pennsylvania. Francisville is one of the oldest continuously operating no-kill shelters in the United States, having been started in 1909. Our mission is to provide loving care to abused, surrendered, unwanted, and abandoned companion animals while seeking permanent homes for them all. Today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Carlo Siracusa, a renowned animal behaviorist, professor, the president of the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists, and the director of the Animal Behavior Service at the School of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. Welcome, Carlo.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
What we're going to touch on today is going to be some common cat behaviors, and you can find all of these topics discussed at great length in a new book that has come out called Decoding Your Cat, which Dr. Siracusa co-authored. I read it over the weekend. It's a fascinating book and informative, and I always learn so much. So Carlo, you know as well as I do that one of the most common reasons people surrender cats to shelters or even let them out on the street is due to unwanted behaviors. So what do you find in your practice to be some of the most common reasons that people surrender their cats?
Yes, sure. Yes, unwanted behavior, they are actually among the most frequent causes for surrendering animal to shelters. My perception that is regarding my service specifically, it might be a little bit biased because we tend to see a certain segment of the population, which is usually pets with very severe behavior problems. But there are data published, and also from my conversation with general practitioners, I do have an idea what are the most frequent problems. And I would say that probably the number one problem for cat owners to deal with is inappropriate elimination. So cats that pee and poop outside of the litter box, this is something that is really difficult for people to manage. However, paradoxically, this is one of the behavioral problems of cats with the best outcome. So I encourage people always when there is this specific problem, consult with your veterinarian, and then your veterinarian will decide if it's the case to consult with a specialist in behavior. And I say consult with your veterinarian because what I think is happening in our services and other services that only work as a referral service is that we tend to see less and less cats because fortunately, like most of the general practitioners now, they feel comfortable treating behavior problems in cats, and especially problems like inappropriate elimination. So this is why I think we see less and less of it, even though it's still a very relevant problem for cat owners. The other problems are also problems related to aggression, and I'm using these terms in a very like general way. So any form of aggression which might be related to inappropriate play, to fear, territorial. So aggression problems would be the other cause. And the third category, I would say, are behaviors that are not really behavior pathologies. That is, they are not abnormal behaviors, but they are behaviors that drive people crazy, that owners just don't like. So
and I know that you actually devote a chapter in your book to these behaviors that drive us all crazy.
Yeah, there is a specific chapter in Decoding Your Cat. I just wanted 2 seconds to clarify what Decoding Your Cat is. Decoding Your Cat is the official book of the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. I'm a co-editor with 2 other colleagues, Megan Heron and Debbie Orwitz, but each chapter is written by veterinary behaviorist diplomates of the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. So really in that book, you have like all these mind of people interested in cat behaviors. And we reviewed each one of the chapter. It was reviewed by the three editors. So there are really, the information is seriously screened and videoed. So there is a lot of good quality science-based information. And there is one chapter devoted to these problems, normal behavior that makes people crazy.
I mean, some of those, that I hear of, or and I know from experience myself, or cats jumping on countertops or higher spaces, cats knocking things on the floor. Scratching is something we all are pretty much prepared for. And one of the things that I think humors people is when they get the zoomies. And I mean, explain what is that, and that is normal cat behavior, right?
Yeah. All you have mentioned are behaviors that are part of normal cat behavior, counter surfing, or in general jumping, tending to jump on higher surfaces. It's normal because cats are a small animal, relatively small animals, and even if we tend to think to cats as fearless predators, so mice and little birds, but they're also prey. So they really have an advantage from staying at higher places from which they can monitor what is happening around, right? And then come down when it's time for them to look for prey, but stay at a safer, higher level, like uh, when they feel that they might be vulnerable. And the zoom is cats are crepuscular creatures, so they tend to get out and be more active later in the day because, like many creatures that cats do eat, like they are also animals that tend to be out later in the day when it's calmer outside. This might be a reason for the zoomies, but it's also true that the typical environment in which cats do live in our home is far from um, a natural, like nature-like, cat-friendly environment. So what do I want to say with this is that our home are usually very well set up. There's not too much going on, not too many things moving around, and we feed our cats in nice, expensive food bowls, and we put all the food there. But this doesn't really resemble what cat environment is. And then we also get upset if our cats, as we were saying, they try to climb like on top of something, which is a natural behavior. So cats, they have to sort of keep their energy inside for a long time during the day. And then at some point, they have this peak of energy, the zoomies, that they try to expand this arousal, this energy that has been accumulated with these zoomies. We have to keep in mind that the cat in a natural environment, it will eat a lot of small prey throughout the day. So there would be 9, 10, 12 occasions in which cats, they really have the possibility to sprint after a prey and bite and launch the prey like into the air and then get it again. All this is usually forbidden in our homes, right? We don't want cats to cause damage. So they spend most of the time at a lower level of activity and arousal, and then they have this peak, the zoomies, which we should not discourage, but we should channel into legal activities, right? So if we provide, for example, our cats with regular outcomes for their energy, and this might be short play sessions, for example, and it might be just a simple stick with feather or a toy that resembles a prey at the end. It might be a laser pointer. It might be just tossing, like there are cats that are attracted by toys that roll, or sorry, it might be even feeding. And I actually, this is the most important thing that I do recommend. It might be feeding cats in a way that is much more similar to what is in nature. So instead of giving one or two big meals, like giving them several small meals throughout the day. And if these meals come with a feeding toy, a puzzle toy, or a toy that will roll, or there are also devices that they resemble a mouse, and you can put food inside. So try to mimic as much as you can the normal condition of a cat that will live in nature, and give the cat the possibility to expand this energy throughout the day. And so you will decrease the possibility that then you have these crazy zoomies with your cat running around and jumping on everything.
That's advice. So I think a lot of people look at cats and think they're solitary animals, but I know in your book it says they're really not. So a lot of times we have people come in, especially at the shelter, and they say, my cat's lonely, they need a friend. And I don't know, sometimes I think, is that just the human saying, my cat needs a friend, or does a cat really need a friend? Can you speak to that social aspect?
Yes, yes. And I think the social behavior of cats is probably the most common source of misunderstanding between cats and humans. And a lot of problems that we see, they actually do derive from this misunderstanding. One reason is because domesticated cats, they are social animals, but they are what we call non-obligate social species. That is, it means that they come from an ancestor, uh, wildcats that are solitary animals. So they lived alone, and they meet with other cats basically mostly for reproduction or when they have kittens. Um, the domestication of cats uh, soften this solitary nature of cats, and it is made possible that cats can share their environment with other cats or with humans. But what happens is that the the domestication of cats it came with an evolution of cats' behavior and cat genetics. As a matter of fact, there are studies that show that cats actually they have a more social gene for sociability than wild cats, but still their repertoire for communication has not evolved that much. So if we make, for example, a parallel with dogs, right? Dogs, they are social animals, but they come from a social ancestor, which is the wolf. So they were already well equipped to be a social species. They have all the tools, the subtle facial mimic expressions and mimicry that they can use to communicate with other individuals. They just had to adapt it to living with humans. But cats didn't come with all this. That is, they were solitary animals. They were like, why should I spend energy? And when I mean energy, I mean real energy, glucose, right? Why I should put energy to feed my brain and ask to my brain to develop a social behavior, which I don't need. So what happens is that cats are not that such good communicators as dogs might be. But they can still live with humans. Regarding do they need another companion? I would say that the answer is based on the individual, right? There's a lot of individual variability, and I always say it's the same thing with people. We are the most uh, evolved social species, and we have a very, very powerful brain. Still, uh, some of us, probably including me, they don't necessarily feel the need to always be with someone, right? Uh,
Right.
Now we are experiencing the opposite, probably is a little bit too much solitary behavior with this COVID-19. But in general, when we can go to party, not all of us want to go on a Sunday night and uh, be in a party with 50 people. Many of us want to stay home, just watch some TV and drink a beer. So it's the same thing for cats. There are cats that are sociable, and also there are cats that have the need for also physical interaction. So running around a lot, chasing. Other cats are very laid back and they just want to stay in the spot. So you want to consider who is your cat, right? What does your cat like? And another important characteristic to consider is that because your cat was living with another cat and enjoying the company of this cat, it doesn't mean that you will like any other cat. This is also what I tell people when you split in a relationship, right? You
Hmm.
don't go outside and grab the first one that passed by because anyway one is worth another. It's not true. Like your bond is with a specific individual, and there are things of the individual.
And I think one of the things that I've learned from working with you in Penn Vet and what you were talking about is that every cat or every dog is an individual, and that they have individual likes and dislikes.
Absolutely, this
So,
is
people tend to think, oh, it's just a cat, it's just a dog, but that's so untrue. And as you were saying, some of them are more social, they like to be in groups, and some, just like people, we're the same way.
yeah,
I think
and
that's what people need to keep in mind, that, each animal has a distinct personality, and, that's what you look for based upon what you're looking for in an animal.
Uh, Absolutely. And the last concept that I was saying also, not only each cat is an individual and have and there's a distinctive personality, but also uh, each pair of individuals is not the same. So you might have had a cat that lived his entire life with a specific animal,
Hmm.
and then unfortunately the other cat dies. Uh, it's not automatic that this cat that now is alone will accept the company of any other cat, right? So
Right.
actually, you might want to assess how your cat is doing alone
Mhm.
because it might do well, and especially if it's an older cat, it might be even more difficult for an older cat to get used to a new individual, especially if this individual is young and wants to do a lot, like jumping, playing. And if your cat is already an older cat, very quiet, that just want is quiet time. So each situation deserves a little bit of assessment in
Hmm.
determining what the right choice might be.
Right. So, if we could talk a little bit about communication, and how I know cats have various forms of communication. How many ways do they communicate? How many forms do they have?
Yeah, so cats do have many ways to communicate. Not always we are very perceptive, and this is just because we are two different species. So for us, we have to learn how cats communicate. It's not innate in us, right? And unfortunately, many times we tend to anthropomorphize and think that one thing that for cats, for humans, it means something, it means the same for cats. So cats do communicate a lot. Actually, is a sort of a passive communication. Cats do say a lot using distance, using their body position, right? So, for example, one of the most important things to learn about cats is that cats always like to keep some degree of distance. Um, So there are studies that show that the majority of cats, they do spend most of the day away from other individuals. So they are different from humans, which actually we are very physical and we like a lot to be in close contact with one. Cats are not like this. Then within this distance, like there are different categories. So there are cats that just don't really like to live with other individuals, so they need a long distance. So, for example, they always need to be at a certain distance or in a different room from another individual. Then there are those cats that they can live within the same space, but they don't have a lot of close physical interaction. And then there are cats that are what we call preferred associates, right? So best buddies in normal. So those are the cats that tend to be closer one to each other. But even when a cat is close to another cat or to a person, for that matter, it doesn't mean that it wants to make that it wants to have a physical interaction, right? So this is why, for example, a cat will jump on your lap, will rest on your lap, but at the same time you're watching TV. So you start to pet the cat, and at some point you hear that you feel better. The cat is bit in your hand, right?
Right.
The cat is like, well, that's very rude of you. I came close to you to say that I really like you, you are my best buddy. But you started to do this very rude thing of continuously touching me, right? So we tend to assume that a cat that comes close to us is a cat that is trying to physically interact with us. That's not true. Same thing for a cat, for example, that would rub and bump with his head on our legs, for example. So they might want to have some degree of physical interaction in this case, a little bit of scratching, mostly around the head, right? So the cheeks, top of the head, but also that one, it has to be short in time. Uh, Petting a cat too much, it will sometimes result in a bite, which is normal. It's normal cat behavior. It's not really.
So the cat's just telling you to stop.
Yeah, it's just telling
Enough.
that
I've had enough.
in cat behavior, this is really rude. He's telling you, he's asking you to learn some good manners. So this is one of the most important things. Then of course, when a cat is close, then you want to look at the body language. So the body language will tell you something, and mostly the face. So you want to look at the eyes. For example, cats, they do have these nice colored eyes. If the light condition stay the same, but the pupils suddenly they become white and black, it means that your cat is getting aroused about something, stimulated. So you want to be aware that there will probably be a reaction. The ears, if they are flattened and lateral backward, this means that your cat is getting scared about something, worried about something. Then there are things that of course, they are more clear, like a kind of hissing. This is definitely a stay away from me.
Right.
The body posture too. The more the cat is lower on the ground, the more fearful it is. Tail wagging, right? It's not.
The whipping of the tail.
It's usually the cat is getting nervous there. So all these little things, but before coming to observing the body language, we have to look at the big picture and see where the cat is. And if the cat is staying away from us, then we don't have to go and disturb the cat. If the cat is in his, for example, now my cat Elsa, right, is in the other room. If she's here not with me, there's a reason for this, right? Maybe me talking continuously just disturbing her. And she was like, you know what, I go to the other room. And I should not go and touch her, because then I should not be surprised if the second, third time that she's going to bite. And another very important form of communication, something that we are not aware of, which is chemical communication through smells and pheromones. And cats do deposit these pheromones to classify the environment and people around them. One of the most, I would say, infamous characteristics, for example, is when they spray. Cat spraying is depositing pheromones, is leaving olfactory message for other cats. And this is actually why they tend to do it usually in relevant places of their house, right? If we set up for them a random spot in a corner of the basement, they will not go and spray there because there's not too much social meaning in it. They tend to do it where the action is because it's a message for other individuals. But they also deposit pheromones when they are rubbing. Rubbing is not always an affiliated behavior because they also rubs with tables and chairs. So what does it mean that they love the chair? No, it means that they are classifying the environment as a safe one, as under control. Why we should be aware of this? Because we bring a lot of olfactory signals with our body when we go outside. So, for example, it's a good habit, especially for people like you that work in a shelter, right?
Right.
Cats inside, to just remove your clothes and your shoes as soon as you come in, because otherwise you bring a library of messages, like a long list of messages for your animals inside. So that's very important.
So I am stunned that we're almost out of time because I only got to about a third of my questions. So there's a good reason for you to come back. However, I must say thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today on Pet Matters and helping us understand our feline friends a bit more. Now, if someone's out there thinking, oh, my cat has a behavior I just can't deal with, how would they get in touch with you at Penn?
Yeah, the easiest way is to Google the name of our service, which is Penn Vet Behavior. And the first entry that they find is the page of our service, and there would be all the information. There are also actually resources, handouts that they can download for free. And if they need to get in touch with us, there are other resources there. We also have a Facebook page, which the same is called Penn Vet Behavior. And yeah, I would say those are the easiest way to get in touch with us.
Great. And for those of you who want some more information, here is what the book looks like. It's called Decoding Your Cat. It's a fascinating read and so informative. And I'm assuming you can get that at any bookstore. Is that correct?
Yeah, in major bookstores. It's on the HMH webpage, and it's also on Amazon.
Okay, great. Well, I can't thank you enough. And remember, if you're looking for a new best friend, be sure to check out our website at francisphilhome.org and also join our Facebook page at Facebook, Francisville Facebook. So till next time, this is Dorothy Claeys for Francisville Home for Smaller Animals, the shelter where every pet matters.